crash was small, the impact was not. One of our employees was in a minor car accident during work hours. It's company policy that a member of the family goes to the hospital with anybody in that circumstance to keep them company until their family or another support system can get there. By the time that I arrived at the ER, Alex had already been checked in and put into a private room. So over the next several hours, I kept her company, told her stories, read her some news articles, talked about her family. At one point, a nurse came in and asked me to step outside the room. Alex told her no, it was fine, I could stay. The nurse looked skeptical. This is when I should say that Alex and I have different skin tones, so we are visibly, probably not biological family. The nurse asked once again if I should stay. Alex looked directly at me as she responded, no, she's family. Then the nurse asked Alex if Alex was aware that Alex was pregnant. Alex said yes. In that moment, she told the HR rep and her boss that she was pregnant about 3 months before it would have become apparent. The power of that moment, knowing that she trusted I would treat her pregnancy as something that deserved joy and excitement and not something to be used as punitive action or even to lose her job over, which had happened to her in the past. It was one of the holiest moments of my leadership career. She knew that I would see her as Alex the human before I saw her as Alex the employee. And that difference may not seem significant, but if you've been on the wrong side of it, you know its weight. The Small Business Administration tells us that 98.7% of all US businesses are small. That means they have less than 500 employees. I'm part of the ownership team of one such business, and we are what some folks could even call a micro business because we have less than 50 employees. There are some serious advantages to this in terms of relationships. It means that when something is happening with somebody on our team, we don't need to consult their personnel file to potentially know the details of what's going on. Meaning that anytime someone is removed from the production apparatus, everyone else has to step up to accommodate the absence. In larger companies, that might not have an issue with that second part, but it would be with the first. It balances. My point is that if we can do it with under 50, I know it can be done with over 500. It may require rewriting the employee manual or building a new room or, I don't know, whatever it would require. But what I do know is that imagination is the beginning of innovation. Asking what if is the first step, not the last. Whenever I've had these conversations, wherever I've had them, the number one response is my company is too big to do that. I keep my face as neutral and kind as possible, and I ask why. The answers fall into a couple of different categories, and there are a few that happen with regularity. We need streamlined processes is a popular one. Oh, that would just never work is another. And the most popular one is that it would hurt profits. Profits are obviously important to a business. We have to keep the lights on and make payroll. But I have a feeling that this primacy on profits, the ultimate focus on them to the exclusion of all else, is the root of the problem we find ourselves in. What if, instead, we understood that the employee in front of us was a human? What if we knew what brought them joy? What grieved them? What if we knew what they liked about their job, what they hated about it? What if we knew them outside of what they could produce for us? What if we understood that they were a fuller person than just an interchangeable cog in the profit machine we have attempted to create? What would happen then? My father bought our company in 1991 with a partner. I was 7 at the time, so my daily interactions were a little bit limited. But over the last 31 years, I've gone from a kid who scrapes bottles in front of the TV on weekends to HR rep to COO of the entire network of companies that we've built. Our mission statement is to impact lives and create holistic wealth. And that has been the driving sentiment of my entire life, not just the professional one. My family takes this to our core. It is the animating mission of who we are, and I've watched as the various members of my family enact that in their own ways. I've watched as my dad sweated and lost sleep and crunched numbers to make sure that he would never break his promise, that this place would never financially lay off anyone. I watched my mother pray for every single employee and all of their family members by name, because it was the best way that she knew to support them, besides making cookies, which are very, very popular. I also watched as my brother walked alongside a lot of our employees who knew the hell of substance abuse recovery, either for themselves or for their loved ones. I've watched as we've all learned that impacting lives, treating people like humans, doesn't always stop at the last production bell. Has it been hard at times? Unspeakably. We've lived through thousands of moments that words can't reach. Has it been worth it? Indubitably. In all of the various incarnations of my role, daughter, sister, HR rep, toilet plunger, I've talked to people all over the world in various positions in their own companies, owners, managers, inventors, HR reps, etc. And here's what I've learned about the employer side of this equation. Very few people set out to be heartless monsters who make people work through active labor, for example. Most leaders just get there because of misguided priorities, general confusion about how humans work, a complete lack of self-awareness or inclusivity, and poor education around how to manage humans. The result paves the road to proverbial hell, a culture where no one feels valued, productivity is in the basement, and the turnover rate looks like an NBA score. There is a different way. The Great Resignation is an excellent example of how we can't get back to normal. First of all, normal doesn't exist. It's just a setting on a tumble dryer. And we have been smacked in the face with so many examples of how normal wasn't working for everyone anyway. We have an opportunity, unlike any in recent memory, to imagine something different, to go with something new. Why do we want to return to what wasn't working? As business leaders, we are normally obsessed with innovation. Why do we only apply it to product lines? In innovation, I ask us to consider is that your employees are humans and not widgets. No one is replaceable, because humans are not interchangeable. The position can be replaced, but you're still going to lose the person, the institutional knowledge, the skill sets, the entity of who they are. You're still going to lose them. And to pretend otherwise is fueling the problem that we're in. And I know that this flies in the face of decades of accepted business wisdom. And that's why I'm inviting us to innovation. If you really think about it, going back is also not an option. We learn and change every day, and we carry those new things forward with us. So if we go, quote unquote, back, we're still carrying things with us that weren't there before. Therefore, there is no pure way to go back. We know more now. Back isn't possible. And if you need any more examples of why going back isn't possible, I'd love to introduce you to a gentleman named Jack Shepherd on the television show Lost. So, if going back isn't possible and normal isn't real, what do? We create. We dream. We breathe new life into old ideas, therefore making them new. We do not pour new wine into old wineskins, for that way is folly. And we don't obsess over what could have been different, for that way lies madness. One element of this new people management innovation that I am nominating connects to that word, management. How we currently understand that word has got to die. Management is about managing. It's about maintaining the status quo or micromanaging. Words that we hate, things that people complain about, stuff that doesn't work. What we need instead is leadership. Leadership invites people into the fullness of themselves by helping them grow, change, evolve, not only for the good of the company, but for the good of their personhood. Leadership takes into account all of their being, not just their productivity in the profit machine that we've constructed, that we call business. Management has people quitting. Leadership has people growing and innovating and changing. And isn't that what we all want anyway? We don't have a lot of details about what professional life is going to look like in the after COVID times, mostly because as you and I talk, we're not in the after times. But what we do know is that collaboration is going to be the way of the future. So the next element we need to talk about is to collaborate well with boundaries. Does everybody in the building need to know the exact budget down to the penny and know that things are tight? No, because that much detail might actually limit their own innovation. Do they need to have an intricate understanding of what kept you up at 2 a.m. cleaning the fridge instead of sleeping? No, because employees are employees, therapists are therapists, and ne'er the twain shall meet. But do they need to have some context to understand that things are rough? Yeah. A quick, hey pals, I know I'm scattered, things aren't great at home. Or hey, we really can't dream as big as we want to. We're kind of on a budget right now. Let's tighten some things. All of that can go a really long way. Simple statements that imply and imbue trust help move all of this innovation in a breathtakingly fresh direction. Do we need to entertain creative ideas from an inclusive community? Oh my gosh, yes. Do we need to do every single suggestion? No, but we need the richness of the community to inform our final decision. Remember, soft skills are only called soft skills because they're hard to quantify. We don't advocate employing human marshmallows. Curiosity and active listening can go a really long way with every group of humans. One of the things that we've learned is that if we open disciplinary conversations with, tell us what you were thinking, or help me understand what's going on, it's a completely different thing than, what the heck is wrong with you? Inviting people to understand what happened rather than what's wrong is a key element to humanity, honestly. And we need to understand why other people made the decisions they made before we can make informed choices about how we move forward. This all applies to more than just business, by the way. It is effective anywhere groups of humans gather to do life together. Schools, sports teams, community organizations, churches, synagogues, families, marriages. One final point in this discussion of what's next. Businesses of every size have to work with organizations whose cultures may not match theirs. The relationship may require a decision between doing business and guarding employees. We face this dilemma frequently, and we've come up with a system that both serves the other company's needs and guards our culture. It means that we have lost business, but we've lost very few employees. The mistakes we've made are legion, but the guiding principle remains the same. We treat people like people here, no matter what. Every moment in life is an opportunity for new. Nothing is static. Everything is breathing and moving and creating and living. And innovation is only ever a decision away. So why don't we do some of that blue sky thinking the business books are always telling us to do and apply it to how we can all human a little bit better together. I invite you to remember that the person in front of you is just that, a person. person who comes with hopes and dreams and wisdoms and griefs and anger management struggles and deep feelings about their local hockey team and that vacation that they'll take someday, they swear, or that book they've always meant to read, or their incredibly strong, lovely feelings about their partner or their professional aspirations, and so on and so on and so on. The person in front of you is a person. And if we can remember their personhood instead of their position, we can hold potential and present in tension. Whatever new society we're building demands we prioritize humanity. And the good news is we absolutely can. We can remember people while keeping an eye on profits. We can know our team while still maintaining boundaries. And we can bring our full humanity to work because this new way of living we're constructing demands nothing less. My family and I and hundreds of thousands of people around the world have been doing this for a while, and we'd love for you to join us. Welcome to the human side of business, friends. The hope is powerful. The innovation is limitless, and the potential is endless.